Okay, I think so. Okay,
Yeah.
let me crack on. So I'm really delighted to be here today, and some of you may know me because from time to time I speak at Gen Success events. It's an organization that do work that is really passionate and really close to my heart, so I support them from time to time. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 tips to have a successful career, not only in banking, but really at a time of disruption and change. So, but before I get into my talk, just a little bit about my career background. So I've come from a varied career background, and I've always been drawn to organizations that are undergoing transformation and change. And as a result, I've worked in different types of transformation, mergers and acquisitions, divestments, digital transformations, and so that's really given me exposure and the skills to really be able to adapt, in particular in times of transformation and change, and during disruption as well, as we're experiencing in the world today. I started my career in technology, then moved on to Diageo, which is an FMCG company. They make premium drinks and alcohol. I was there for about 5 years or so, then moved from there to join Barclays in 2008, which was right in the middle of the financial crisis. In the time I've been with Barclays, I've done about 6 roles, so I would say I average about 2 years or so in a specific role. I've lived and worked abroad during my time at Barclays. I've also led global teams in 16 countries, including India and Singapore. And alongside my day job as head of service management, I'm also the COO, Chief Operations Officer for D&I initiative, looking at ethnicity inclusion in Barclays, although I only get paid for one. Where did that come from? Just a little bit about my background. I'm born to Nigerian parents. My parents were teachers. My dad came into the UK several decades ago to do his master's and PhD at the London School of Economics, but then he returned to Nigeria shortly after because that was where he felt his future was. I come from a large family where four out of 5, so quite a large family, and I grew up in a small town, but I definitely love living in big cities. I live in London, so my just at a critical point in my while growing up, I lost my dad at a pretty young age, which wasn't a really great time. I was just about 14 or 15 at that time, and it was the main breadwinner, so it was really quite difficult growing up, but we managed to go through it. And during that period, really, and up to where I am today, is really the values that my parents taught me and showed me, values such as hard work, determination, and hope, that shaped me and helped me to become the person I am today. So I'm sure my parents will be really proud of me. My mom, though, has really high expectations, so but that's as a topic of discussion for another time. So now, I also do a bit of giving back, actually quite a lot. I firmly believe that if you have the right role, if you have the right job, if you have the right career, you can literally change your life, irrespective of your background or the circumstances that you've had at an early stage in your career. So I really support organizations that do a lot around careers, career development, mentoring, Gen Success being one of them. And also, I set up a career mentoring organization by the name the Steer Network. So I connect mentors to mentees. So if you're interested, you can follow us on social media. I'm also a big supporter of social justice and gender equality, and I'm a trustee at Global Fund for Women UK. Now to our talk in terms of for that in terms of that talk, what I'm going to talk about today, we're in a period where the world is undergoing massive change and disruption. COVID-19, with people really scared about their future prospects, their jobs, their career. Old jobs are being swept away, new jobs are being created, industries that have been around for a long time are not quite sure where the future is. And obviously coupled with the unrest that we're seeing in the UK, in the US, which is now even spreading in the UK around race, equality, and justice. So there's a massive shift in the environment, which can create a lot of uncertainty and disruption. But I think there is no better time really to be able to step back and reassess and think about, what do I want to do with my career? How do I break into an industry which I hadn't had exposure before? How do I do a new job? Or how do I do things differently? So I'm going to be offering some insights. As I said, I joined Barclays in 2008 during the peak of financial crisis. I shouldn't even have gotten the job at that time. When I got in, thousands of people were actually getting fired, but I got into that role. I got into the bank at that time, and I've been there since that time, and my career has really taken off. So the first tip I would offer is that you need to develop a growth mindset. Again, with lots of uncertainty, there's a tendency for one to, step back and think, I don't really have control over what's going on, and that's a fact. We none of us have real control about what's happening in our external environment, but we can have control over our mindset in terms of how we think and how we approach problems and situations of uncertainty. So for me, growth mindset isn't about having a positive mindset, although that's really crucial and that's really important. But it's about cultivating a mindset that transcends one current reality. It's about how one adapts to changes, how one bounces back from setbacks and learn and grow as a result. So more than ever at this crucial time in the world, having a growth mindset is super important. Having said that, it's not easy to develop a growth mindset, because we all have a fixed mindset. We have fixed mindset triggers. There are things that happen, of course, when things are going on well. You think you can conquer the world, you can do all things. But when you face challenges, when you receive criticisms, when there are uncertainty in the environment, as we see today, we start to feel insecure and even maybe defensive. So, and that sort of response inhibits growth. There are lots of literature and materials out there in terms of how to have a growth mindset, but I can just offer 3 quick tips. What I would say is very important to embrace failure. We all have setbacks at one point or the other. No one is an overnight success, so embrace failure, see it as a learning opportunity. Very important to be a lifelong learner. Be curious, have childlike curiosity about a lot of things. Try and go through self-improvement books if you can. They really would help you develop and stretch your mind. And then lastly, I would say yes to challenges. Seek out opportunities, put yourself forward in your career. Challenges are the flip side of challenges are opportunities, because that's where you really grow. In terms of my specific situation, a few years ago, when I received the job description for my current role, my initial response was to say, no, I can't do this, because it was one of those roles where you either do really well or you fail really badly. There wasn't a halfway house. So I had to set up a department right from the scratch with about 100 people that had different reporting lines into me, and I had to help the company deliver a key strategy. But of course, I've had enough experience in my career to know that when you have a bit of nervousness or about a new role, that's just where the growth lies. That's where the challenge lies. So after slipping on this, I embraced it. I'm really glad that I took on that role, because it's opened a lot of doors for me. The second point I would say is you need to discover your USP. That's your unique selling point. And you have to know what you are really good at. If you don't know, try and spend some time reflecting on what your core skills are, what your competencies, what your strengths are, what you do really well. And if you don't know, you can ask people that have worked with you, either if you're in school or if you're working at the moment, or even if you're unemployed, maybe places you've worked in the past, or even your family. Just ask them, what do they think that you do really well? And there are also lots of places that you can check on the internet where you can find your strengths and find your skills and competence. The reason why this is really important is some jobs that exist today, or even yesterday before the COVID-19 pandemic, have disappeared, and you have to be able to position yourself for a new role. But then you have to be able to identify and articulate what your transferable skills are, because you need to be able to show employers or at interviews that although you might have worked in a creative industry, for example, but you can apply the same skills in the banking industry or in the banking role. So it's very important to take the time to identify those. Again, as I said, I'd come from a really varied background. I wasn't a banker when I joined Barclays. I came from FMCG, but I was able to demonstrate to my line manager then, who then hired me into Barclays, that I had transferable skills from a different environment where I can apply and help them to solve problems. And even at that point in time, in 2008, I was assigned to a critical project where the bank was looking at financial transparency, and I helped them develop models during that period. And we actually published the outcome of our work in Financial Management magazine. So of course, that was a period of change, period of uncertainty, but there were opportunities for me which I embraced. The third one I would say is about building relationships. Really important. I don't really want to say networking, because networking sometimes can feel quite transactional, but really this is about building quality relationships with people that can support you, that can empower you, that can take you to help you achieve your career goals. Because you're going to have periods in your career, even no matter how well you're doing now, where you're going to face challenges and you're going to need support and insight from people that have been there to help you navigate it. So the different sort of relationships, I would say, is, advisors, it could be your peers, that know you well and can give you candid advice. It could be mentors. These are people that have been there, done that, and are willing to support you and pull you alongside to help you achieve your career goals. And also sponsors. Sponsors are super important. So sponsors are those that that can literally open doors for you. They're those that offer you juicy assignments, promotions, but for you to have a sponsor, you have to earn it. It's about credibility, it's about delivery. So I would say seek out those 3 relationships at the bare minimum for your careers. Then my fourth tip I would say is step out of your comfort zone. Comfort and risk, they do not coexist. If you want to grow, you have to step out of your comfort zone. Of course, you might feel nervous, you might feel uncertain, but if you really want to grow, if you want to have a good career, you want to have a career that you're proud of, I think you definitely need to step out of your comfort zone. A story which I hope would bring this to light was at a certain point in my career, I'll probably say about 8 years ago, I was feeling quite stuck in my role, and I was in finance then, and I wanted to move to a different part of the bank, and I got a few opportunities. But then one of the opportunities that really intrigued me, which I found really interesting, although scary at that time, was really relocating from the UK and moving to a completely different continent to take on a regional role where I was responsible for onboarding across 12 countries in Africa and in Europe. At that time, I'd not done anything of that scale, but I went on, I embraced that challenge, and that role has just, those experiences I gathered during that period has opened doors for me. As a result of some of the work I've done there, I've been able to, I've been recognized both internally and externally. At Barclays, I was appointed as an ex officio to one of the top 10 leadership teams last year, in recognition of my contributions to several divestment initiatives at Barclays. And outside the bank as well, I've won a few industry awards. So I think for me, that was a career-defining moment, just being able to step out my comfort zone, embrace challenge, do something different, and embrace all the risk and the opportunities that comes with. And of course, as I said, it's normal to be scared. It's normal to feel a bit uneasy. But what I would say is, just keep going, take one step after the other, whatever that stepping out of your comfort zone means to you. Test the waters, take a small step, and then when you feel comfortable, you can you can dive into the water. And finally, to my last point, I would say having a successful career is not about really climbing the proverbial career ladder. I think, frankly, those days of a career ladder is actually over. Like one famous person once said, that you should view your career as a jungle gym and not as a ladder. So I would say, do not be afraid to pivot or take a different direction or different route if the current career path you are on does not serve your purpose or is not taking you towards your goal. But more importantly, I think we all have to define success on our own terms, and not based on what society expects of us, or not what our friends or family expect of us. So to wrap up my talk, whistle stop talk, I would say if there's one thing that you take away from my talk, I just say, just remember that you have more control over your career than you may realize. If you run your career like a business, run it like a business, and you are the CEO of your career. You own your career, not anyone else. Thank you, everyone.